Started off earlier talking a little bit about history here. And wherever we go, I take my bicycles with me on the tour bus, we put them on the airplane, the submarine, whatever. And I've come to know most of the cities that we played over the last years pretty well. And in particular, I've come to know a lot of the suburbs around this part of the country here. I come from the suburbs. What about you? You know what the suburbs are. That's where they tear out the trees and then name the streets after them. Come from a little suburb in Southern California called Pasadena. The brothers and I, Ed, Al, and I, lived most of our lives in that little town, and we used to play all the places with names like the Knights of Pythias Hall. We used to play the Elks Lodge. We used to play the Jewish Temple. We used to play the Catholic Church. We used to play the Prom. We used to play Hava Nagila and Inagata Gavita and every fucking thing in between. Oh yeah. And way back when, there were a couple of 3 summers, true story, when my good friend Stan actually drove an ice cream truck. That's right. And that was in the day when you would take the truck home at night. You remember way back when the cops used to take cop cars on home night, you could see them parked in front of the houses all throughout the suburbs. We would wait until Stan's mom would go to the Rotarian meeting in Pasadena every second Saturday of the month, and as soon as she was gone, we would park the ice cream truck in the backyard next to her swimming pool and throw away all the ice cream so we would have the freezer to keep the beer cold that night. The parties on Michigan Street were amazing. We would charge like $1.50 to get in, and there'd be 500 screaming memes. But even more important than the actual festivities implied was about 3 doors down at Kenny's house, and there was always the ritual before the party at Kenny's house. Now, I think we can all admit this to each other. We're old enough. We all had a friend named Kenny, didn't we? Let's get a little sense memory together here. About 8 or 9 of us sitting in a big circle, Indian style, at Kenny's house, passing joints both ways. I know a lot of you kids don't believe it, but pot had seeds back then. You know? And it was an elaborate ritual. It was a very important part of the powwow that you would knock the seeds out of it. And I remember Kenny struggling valiantly with a Bob Marley-sized spliff like we'd seen in the poster back then, and watching the seeds glide gently like in slow motion down the face of a Pink Floyd album cover into a big glass jar. Jar that was there for no other reason evidently but for catching the seeds. That thing was the biggest piece of furniture in Kenny's house. That glass jar had to be the size of a goddamn seat cushion. Do you remember? And for some reason, Kenny had painted all the walls black, and he painted the ceiling black too, and he had put up black lights on all 4 walls, and right next to the mandatory Jimi Hendrix black light poster was a dartboard. And clearly none of us were very athletic, much less dart players. We would, after about an hour at Kenny's house, some of us would start tossing darts, and inevitably we would fuck it up and miss the board entirely, which was cool because the darts would hit the black wall right next to the board, and it would chip away little tiny pieces of black paint. The white wall underneath would come through, and underneath the black light, you could pretend you were looking at stars. I remember it like it was last night. It was Saturday, 1972. And at the end of the party, would usually have about 2, 3 in the morning. We'd have to load up our own gear. And I had an Opel Cadet station wagon that was about the size of that drum set, not even the size of that drum set behind me. And I would put all my PA gear and the guitars and the mics and the stands and the cords and everything. Put Arlene, my girlfriend, in the shotgun seat. And she would hold all the gear. We'd drive up in front of her parents' house, and I'd try and make out as long as I could drag it. And she would say, okay, 10 more minutes if you play me my favorite song. Sometimes it baby needs something to keep you cool, yes you do. And sometimes it baby needs something to keep you cool. And look out now, I got something for you. Say what it is. I'm rushing, baby, somewhere passing by. I'm rushing, baby, somewhere passing by. Yes I am. And all my favorite out here need to satisfy. Check this out. Now too bad we did Dixie cups. All flavors and preserves still on your eyes. Baby, stop me when I'm passing by. And all my favorite out of girls you just satisfy. Just so fine.